Hi everyone, and welcome to Lake Oswego United Church of Christ. My name is Adam Ericksen, and today I'm going to talk with you about one of the passages we're going to be discussing this Sunday at church. We start at 10:30. Hope to see you there, but before I talk with you about this passage, I have a question for you.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me no more.
What is love? So our passage is from Matthew chapter 5, verses 38 to 48. And we're still in the Sermon on the Mount, which is Jesus' most important teachings. And here Jesus says, "You have heard it said to love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Jesus tells us to love our enemies. This is a really challenging thing to do, but here's where we often misunderstand what Jesus and the Bible means by love. We often think of love as primarily an emotion, a feeling, a good feeling that we have for someone else. But this is not what love means in the Bible, and not what Jesus means in particular. You can't really have good feelings for someone who you call as an enemy. What Jesus here is talking about is loving acts, as opposed to feelings of love. How do you love an enemy? Well, one of our clues is found in Leviticus 19:18, which is where Jesus picks up this passage. Nowhere in the Bible does it say you should hate your enemy. So this was probably a statement that people were saying. It's usually how we deal with our enemies, by hating them. But here in Leviticus 19:18, you start to see loving our neighbors, including our enemies, coming through. It says, "You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against any of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord." So here Leviticus is saying, don't seek vengeance against your neighbor. Who would you seek vengeance against? Somebody who has hurt you. Leviticus is saying, don't do that. Why? Well, the reason that Jesus also says to love your enemies is because when you seek vengeance against your enemy, it just continues the cycle of vengeance. This is why Jesus says, turn the other cheek. Why? Because when you slap somebody on the cheek, it just keeps the cycle of violence going in the world. Jesus wants to stop that exchange of violence and try to replace it with love. That, I think, is why Jesus says, love your enemies as you love yourself. But there is an issue going on here. One of the issues is that oftentimes when we try to cover up our feelings of hatred, our feelings of resentment, we just bury them with love, and we aren't honest about our hatreds and our resentments. They just get buried underneath other emotions, and then they tend to pop out, explode during certain times. It's much better, I think, not to bury those emotions with attempts at love, trying really hard to love someone else, but by naming our emotions of anger and hatred, talking about them with trusted friends, and working our way through them, so that together we can start to work towards loving all people as God loves all people, including those we call our enemies. So those are some thoughts that I had about this passage, and would love to hear what you think about them in the comment section below. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt